Right, where we are this morning, having a look at what's come out of the budget in the UK. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, standing up, talking a lot about tax, but what we're really interested in here is what he had to say about real estate. Obviously, a lot of investment from this part of the world going into the UK real estate market, and not just by British citizens either. We have got an extension of the stamp duty holiday to the end of June. We also have some new mortgage sweeteners. What does it mean for us? We are speaking now to Henry Faun, head of the private office for Knight Frank Middle East. Henry, good morning. How are you going?
Hello, Brandy. Good morning.
Before we jump into this discussion, Henry, remind me what we're talking about when we talk about the property purchase tax or the stamp duty when it comes to the UK.
The stamp duty is a one-time tax paid at the closing of the property purchase, similar to the transaction tax that we have here in Dubai.
So how much of a big deal is it that the holiday from stamp duty is being extended until June?
It is a very important deal for both UAE residents and British nationals in the UK as well. It means that those transactions up to £500,000 can benefit from a saving. It is a 3-month extension at the moment, and then will taper off further until the end of September.
But it will still only apply to a higher band of properties, as you say, until October. Are the properties that we see being bought from here likely to be in that band?
Quite possibly, Brandy. It can vary across the board in terms of price points and individual people's means. But what it will be, even if you're at a higher band than this, you would still benefit from those tax savings.
Right. So what does it mean for people looking to buy property here? Is it a bit of a game changer? Will it change what people do?
What it will mean is that there have been discussions and calls from the wider real estate industry that there could have been more of a cliff edge type scenario. Perhaps buyers and sellers withdrawing from their agreed transactions simply because they couldn't get them completed in time for this current cut-off date. The fact that it's been extended by 3 months and then will taper off beyond that removes all cliff edge type scenario and means that everyone can benefit from this in a much smoother transition process.
Were you seeing a rush, Henry? Were you seeing a sort of a hurry from your clients to try and get this done by the end of March?
Certainly, both from new clients looking to buy new properties, Brandy, but also those that have bought before now and looking to complete on a property that perhaps was under construction. So it works twofold there.
This move is designed to boost the UK property market, and yet a lot of the numbers that we have seen coming out have been really good. Does it actually need boosting?
There actually has been, since the market reopened earlier last year, there's been a mini boom across the UK, and we've seen a huge volume of transactions increase. The market does need support, of course. It's of key importance to the government, and therefore it's good to maintain that good level of transactional volumes.
We've also got a new mortgage guarantee scheme coming in, bringing in low deposit mortgages. Talk us through that.
Well, it's been a tough year or so for those that can only pull together perhaps 5% or so to get themselves on the property ladder, Brandy. And therefore the government has decided to guarantee those mortgages up to 95%. I think this is a great move for first-time buyers in particular.
Do we know who it will apply to? Will it just apply to British citizens? Could it apply to other people who are living here who are able to access a UK mortgage? What's the implications for us?
Brandy, good question. We'll see how that is clarified in the fullness of time. But for now, it looks like it's not just limited to first-time buyers. It could even be for buy-to-let properties as well.
And we've got the furlough scheme extended, so more money in people's pockets rather than job losses. Hopefully, what does that do to the property market?
Well, that is also of key importance. If, for example, a UAE-based investor here had a property in the UK, it could be that their tenant has been employed in hospitality or arts sectors and has not been able to work for some time. And the fact that they've been on furlough and supported by the furlough scheme, Brady, means that they are still able to afford their rent, still able even to afford their mortgages if they own a property in the UK. So it's of key importance to the property market.
Are 95% mortgages a good idea? Is there a risk, without being classes, that we could see people buying into the property market who can't service a mortgage?
Good question, and that's why it's been a particularly tough year for those who only have the 5% deposits, because many banks were perhaps saying, let's not lend at that sort of level. The market is that as such, and the government is keen to prop those up and support those buyers in such a position so they can get a foot on the property ladder, Andy.
What is the interest, though, with the pound where it is at the moment in UK property? I mean, when we were talking last, Henry, the pound was a lot lower. It's quite high at the moment. Is it still as attractive to buyers from here?
Good question. I mean, the pound has crept up somewhat over that time frame, and perhaps it will do in the future. We cannot speculate on that. But for now, the long-term interest in UK property may not depend on a few percentage changes in the currency swings, but actually the long-term interest in investing in the UK market, perhaps the education sector or otherwise, that is of huge benefit to those from the Middle East investing in the UK.
So what have you seen in the first 2 months of this year, Henry, in terms of buyer activity and in terms of where they're buying through you?
We've actually seen a small uptick in activity, perhaps more so at lower price points, I would suggest, than the big higher price points, and therefore good for wider family members looking to live in the UK longer term, for UAE nationals and residents, and also perhaps buy-to-let as well, if people are looking to make the most of the market at the moment.
What about an additional stamp duty for expats, Henry? We've got a question from you. Kelvin has written in to ask whether an additional 2% for expats is likely to come in.
That will be coming in. That's not part of Rishi's budget yesterday. That's more of a wider changing to the taxation in the UK. And yes, it will be coming in. It's coming in as of April. And it was not just designated to expats, but actually all international buyers coming in. And it brings it more into line, perhaps, where it would have been on a global stance when we look at real estate and how it's held.
Is it a deterrent?
Not necessarily as a deterrent, but perhaps as a slightly larger closing costs. Many markets around the world, Brandy, do have larger closing costs for overseas buyers, and it brings the UK perhaps closer in line with other international markets.
Henry Faun, head of the private office for Knight Frank Middle East, talking us through the property aspects of the UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak's budget yesterday, extension of the stamp duty holiday until June, and a new mortgage guarantee scheme as well, bringing in 5% or low deposit mortgages.
You're listening to the Business Breakfast, Dubai Eye 103.8. Thomas, how's your British real estate empire performing at the moment? You've got London, you've got Manchester.
Yeah, looking at Bristol at the moment as well. I've always held a candle for Bristol.